And welcome, everyone. It's the Belmont Stakes edition of It's Official. Jeff Siegel, Jeremy Plonk from First Bet. We do this show every Tuesday, recapping, looking ahead, and talking about the hot topics in racing. If you're watching and following this in the first Belmont Stakes wager guide, welcome in. Enjoy the wager guides. You scroll through all the various opinions of the final jewel of this year's Triple Crown Stakes. Jeff and I will talk about the Belmont as one of our 5 topics this week, Jeff, and there's just such a great supporting cast from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. We've got a great week on tap.
Boy, do we ever. Great quality racing, kind of a mid-season Breeders' Cup type of situation where many of the horses that are going to be competing over the weekend at Belmont Park not only will be in the Breeders' Cup, but may even be among the very logical favorites too. Yeah. So we're going to get a kind of a sneak preview this week, and the Belmont, I think, it's a good gambling race. At least it is for me, because I don't like the favorites. So it doesn't mean I'm going to win, but at least I'm going to go with some conviction other than some 2-5 shot that we have to settle on. We'll have enough of that on Friday's program. We'll discuss that in a minute. But Saturday, and I drew that. I think they finished drawing it as we speak for Saturday today. Can't wait to dive into that as well.
Field of 9 for the Belmont Stakes. Let's take a look at who passed the entry box this morning in Elmont, New York. It's a lot of Tapit flavor in this year's Belmont Stakes. If they're not by Tapit, they're out of a Tapit mare, and that's a good thing. Tapit has been the dominant sire in the Belmont Stakes in recent years, and Jeff, if there's one thing about horse racing and trainers and owners and handicappers, we're lemmings. When we see something, we follow it. If you had a Tapit who's age 3 this year, you got him into the Belmont, it seems like.
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, there aren't many 3-year-old races at this level at a mile and a half. I think there's one. This is it, at least on the dirt anyway. Right. So if you think you've got a specialist in there, this is the time to try them out. And you never know what's going to happen because we are kind of flying blind on this. None of these horses have obviously run this far. Some of them we expect will like it, but you never know for sure.
You've got David Aragona's morning line odds posted there. He's got Forte, last year's 2-year-old champ, the 5-2 morning line favorite. Second choice, Todd Pletcher, the stablemate Tapit Trice at 3.5 to 1, 7-2 on Angel of Empire, third place finisher in the Kentucky Derby, and then Preakness winner National Treasure at 5-1 odds. All right, let's hit the big board for our first of 5 topics. We're going to play a little buy or sell. We're going to talk about 5 major contenders for this year's Belmont Stakes. Jeff and I will tell you whether we're buying or selling them. Jeff, let's start off with Forte. Forte is the horse who was the favorite for the Kentucky Derby. Had a front right foot bruise that put him out of the Kentucky Derby. Couldn't come back because he was on the vets list to run in the Preakness. So now Forte shows up in the Belmont Stakes. He hasn't run since the Florida Derby. There's been a lot of water under the seas since then. What do you make of Forte?
Well, I'm going to sell him. I don't know if you're going to buy him, but I'm selling. I mean, at 5-2 on the morning line, which is what I think he'll be. I'm not criticizing the line, but for a horse who hasn't been out in 2 months, for a horse who's gone through some foot trouble, this is not the way you would normally bring a horse up to the Belmont, even if you wanted to. And his workouts are okay. I mean, I guess they're good enough, but there's no sizzle there to me. And I would want to see more in the morning than I've seen so far. To expect that not only is he fit enough to go a mile and a half, but if he's even all that good. I wasn't going to pick him in the Derby, and that's before I found out he was hurt. So I don't know why I would be doing it here. This was a workout. I guess it's okay, though. The horse he's working with, Verratti, who's leading the way as the prompter, he's not all that much horse. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's just another horse, just a run-of-the-mill allowance horse. And, he's going to go pretty easy the inside. If you told me that Forte was on the inside, I know he's not, but I mean, the bottom line is the inside horse looks just as good. They're both breezing and even galloping out. I thought Verratti was a little bit more eager. So I don't know, Jeremy. I'm gonna sell. If you're buying, fine with me, but I'm selling.
Yeah, look, he gets outfinished on the wire by the Bob there. And like you said, he doesn't separate himself tremendously in the gallop out. So is Forte absolutely on top of his game? We don't know the answer to that question. We won't find out until the end of a mile and a half. But why do you want to find out and get $7-8, right? I mean, he's going to be 3-1 or less. And And he could go way less than that. People are going to look at the record. They're going to look at the 5 straight wins. They're going to look at all these grade 1 wins. It's Todd Pletcher. It's Irad Ortiz. That spells money in New York to begin with. Pletcher's record in the Belmont Stakes is outstanding. As we know, he's won 3 of the last 10. So he's going to be an underlay price. And I'm a Forte fan. I've been a fan of his. I picked him in the Kentucky Derby until the last moment and dropped out when we heard about his foot injury. And then he dropped out of the race. I have a ton of respect for him. But he's not running Saturday because the race is a mile and a half. Right. He's running Saturday because the race is the Belmont Stakes.
Correct.
If Saturday's race was the Jim Dandy, they'd find somewhere else to run. First race back after 2 months after a foot injury. The mile and a half would not be the first choice, right? It's the Belmont Stakes.
Well,
that's
yeah.
Other than go on all the signage, the Belmont Stakes is a mile and a half to the horse, and that's where I have a problem.
Well, I asked myself this question. Would Todd Pletcher be running this horse if he wasn't right? And the answer is, we just answered it. Maybe, yes. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's, I usually like to default to trust the trainer, but I'm not sure that this horse is where he should be. And he said it right. If this wasn't the Belmont Stakes, do you really think he'd be running? I'm not sure. So that's not
a mile and a half. You'd find a different race for a comeback.
That's not a recipe for taking a relatively short price. So correct. I'm selling, and we'll see if how many people on Saturday are actually going to buy him at that price.
We are both selling on Forte, and if you've watched our show over the months, you're probably saying, these guys have turned coat a little bit, right? I mean, back February, March, we were pretty bullish on Forte and thought that he was the top of this class. Not in this spot, not at this price. We are both selling. As for the Preakness winner, will National Treasure get the same kind of trip as he did in Baltimore? Let's go back and take a look from High Hope Pimlico.
National Treasure is the leader. Javier Castellano has now taken Mage to the outside. He's moved up into third as Blazing Sevens takes on front-running National Treasure coming toward the top of the stretch. National Treasure off the turn in front. Blazing Sevens alongside. Mage is 2.5 lengths behind them. Red Route 1 cuts the corner, and they're into the stretch. National Treasure taken on by Blazing Sevens. Mage wanders inside. Still work to do with him. National Treasure digging in. Blazing Sevens. Mage is third. It's National Treasure. It's Blazing Sevens putting on a show in the Preakness. Who's it going to be? It's going to be National Treasure.
So the Derby winner settled for third. Mage doesn't come back to run in the Belmont Stakes, but the winner does, National Treasure for Bob Baffert. Now, he skipped the Kentucky Derby, runs in the Preakness, and tries to win the Belmont Stakes. Jeff, I love to do my research and my history. The last horse to not run in the Derby and then win the final 2 legs of the Triple Crown. You want to play a little trivia?
I don't know. I didn't look it up. I'll trust you. I'm sure you probably could have figured it out even without...
No, this one I didn't have.
Really? Well, if you didn't have it, I certainly wasn't going to have it.
I did not have Pillory in 1922. The last horse not to run in the Derby and then win the final 2 legs of the Triple Crown. So we will see if National Treasure can pull it off. Statistics aside, anomalies aside, it's about pace for this horse, right? If he's able to go very slow and then come home like a bullet, because they did come home very fast at Pimlico. That was an admirable final 3/16 of a mile, one of the faster that we've seen in Baltimore. They went slow to do it, but a lot of times the Belmont will go very slow and then try to see who can survive in the stretch there. So National Treasure, I'm on the fence with him in terms of a buy or sell. I don't have a confident direction either way on this, but I want to hear what you think.
Well, I'm going to buy, but I want a discount. Okay. I mean, I don't want to pay full price on this one. I'll buy it, but you got to put it on sale for me.
Okay. I like that.
And the reason for that is because National Treasure has won 2 races in his life, and they both were gate to wire. Okay, he's not going to sit second or third and win. He hasn't. Let's put it that way. And it's not like he hasn't been in races where he shouldn't have won. He was 3-5 when he was stalking in the sham and couldn't get by anybody. So I don't know whether he's a needed lead type. I think from the inside, when I say inside, he's inside the other speed. The thing about the other horse that he has to run with, Il Miracolo, He's run 10 times. He's got 2 wins, and both of those wins were gate to wire. You don't think they're taking him back, right?
Right.
So now you've got the possibility that National Treasure is going to be hounded every step of the way by Il Miracolo, or at least during at least the first 3 quarters of the race. I don't know how good Il Miracolo is. But National Treasure, I watched him gallop out in some of his races. He always gallops out well. So I don't really have any fear that he won't get the 1.5 miles.
Right.
If they let him alone, that's for sure, which is why I'm going to be buying him. But on the other hand, I never thought he was that good. Mm-hmm. I never thought he was good enough to win a classic. His last race, he hung on gamely. He came home fast. But, the runner-up did too. And I'm not really sure whether, that race was all that great. I mean, I don't think I'd be picking Blazing Seventh here. So I don't know. Put it this way. When I say I'm buying, but I'm going to discount, that means I'll probably use him somewhere on my ticket, maybe underneath. But I won't be shocked if he wins, but I'd want more than the price that he's probably going to be.
Yeah, he's 4th choice on the morning line. It'll be interesting to see what the public does with him because, he got bet at Pimlico. He was 5-2 in there. He's never really been much of a price in his 3 starts this year. It's Baffert. I don't know what the public's going to do with this horse. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the 2nd or 3rd choice, even though he's 4th in the morning line. But they could also let him go. And like you said, it's price dependent. If he's up there, if he drifts up 5-6 to 1, then maybe you say he's worth a gamble at that point. He's never really run a bad race at all, and he's never really backed completely out of a race. He either gets it, he just kind of runs the same way. So if he gets to the lead, he can go wire to wire. If he's sitting 2nd, 3rd, 4th, he runs 2nd, 3rd, 4th, it seems like. So he's not an easy horse to toss out of any of the superfecta, that kind of consideration if you're looking for the exotics, even if he doesn't make the lead. So it'll be interesting to see. John Velasquez, of course, rides. He's probably won more races. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that. He's won more races at Belmont Park than any current jockey active in the game today. Maybe Angel Cordero or somebody over all time, but Velasquez may be the leading rider at Belmont all-time period. So you've got the right rider on him. We'll see how he handles the 1.5 mile trip. I'm slightly selling just because of the old DRF comment, prefer others, the old.
That's how I
prefer others, but I don't have a real knock and a reason not to like him in this particular spot. No. And he could get another comfortable trip. It's interesting with the rail horse in here. I thought at the post position, Charles, Tapit Trice. We're not going to talk about this horse in buy or sell, but Jose Ortiz picks up the mount here for Brad Cox. This horse has never been on the front, but Brad Cox at the draw this morning said, we're going to send. Since they have the rail, and Cox has 3 horses in this race, a couple of them are closers. I know there's different ownership involved here, but Tapit Trice may be used as part of the pace in here to try to set it up a little bit for the other 2 Brad Cox trainees in here, Hit Show and Angel of Empire from off the pace. So if that's the case, the old speed duel question is it takes more than 2 to party, right? So even if Il Miracolo goes with National Treasure, still they may not go that quick. You throw a 3rd horse up in there and Tapit Trice, all of a sudden we may have a Belmont pace that is more favorable for the horses. You don't want a deep closer in this race, but wouldn't hurt to be sitting 4th, 4 lengths off the pace if there's 3 legitimate speed horses in there. So let's see how it sets up and how the race plays out. And for one of those closers that we're talking about, Angel of Empire, he'll want it fast. But to try to negate some of that lack of speed that he's had in his races, blinkers on for the first time, Angel of Empire in the Belmont Stakes. A patented closer. His running style was definitely from off the pace. Now they put the blinkers on to hope to keep him a little bit closer than he was in Louisville. He was a decent rallying 3rd that day. Let's take a look back with Larry Coleman's call from NBC.
Here's 2 Phils making a move on the inside, and the 2 of them hook up, and Jareth Loveberry has taken 2 Phils to the front. And Kings Barnes is running in 2nd. Hit Show is circled up on the outside as they come to the top of the stretch, and they're into the stretch, and 2 Phils has turned for home on top. Kings Barnes, here's Mage coming struggling down the outside. Angel of Empire is putting in his run, and there's 1 furlong to run. 2 Phils on the inside, trying to hold up Mage. Mage has taken the lead here as they come into the final 16th, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby. And then it was 2 Phils, Angel of Empire in a photo.
Angel of Empire still had that stride at the end. If you go back and watch this replay, the horse who's reaching out the most at the end, he's not making up a ton of ground, but he's still trying. I kind of like this performance a little bit more as I see it. It was disappointing in that he was the favorite and he had dead aim on Mage right at the 8th pole. You would have thought if those two closed equally that there was going to be a photo finish, not a length and a half, length and 3/4 difference. So Mage out-kicked him for sure, but there's something about Angel of Empire I think is set up well for this race, Jeff. He can't fall 12, 14, 15 lengths back as he has in some of his races, but I'm buying him. I think he's a major player in this particular race, but not from 15 back. I like that they're putting blinkers on. Sometimes that doesn't work as an experiment, though. We're going to trust in Brad Cox that he's making the right move here in terms of the equipment. I like Angel of Empire on Saturday a decent amount.
Yeah, I'm going to buy him. I'm not spending all my money at the flea market on him, but I'm buying, because for the same reason you mentioned, I by Classic Empire, he absolutely should get a 1.5 miles. And I really do think that it might be better for him if he isn't all that far back. Right. Because I don't think he has a massive turn of foot, but I think he can carry it for a while. And I would like to see him on top of the leaders at the head of the stretch, have a 1/4 mile to grind it out. Just kind of the way he won the Arkansas Derby, same way where he was not all that far back and he didn't blast home. He just kind of left his field and lengthened out and gradually drew clear. I mean, that's what he is. Nothing wrong with that. And I think really at a 1.5 miles, he is going to be at very comfortable. Let's put it that way. Yeah. I don't know what kind of trip he's going to get. He's outside in the 8th or not, and he might just drop over but I hope they don't try to produce one run. Deep closers traditionally don't win the Belmont. You can be off the pace, but you'd like to be somewhere in the middle at least. And I wonder if they recognize that. And I think they do, hence the addition of blinkers. So I give him a look. I'm buying his chances pretty good. I think he's going to run well.
He was 4-1 favorite in the Kentucky Derby. It's reasonable he comes back at 4-1 again in half the size field, right? I mean, field of 9 here in the Belmont. If the morning line is correct, you got the two Pletchers taking the money, and then third choice in there might be Angel of Empire. And if that's the case, you might be looking at $9, $10, $11 again. The same price you were in the Kentucky Derby at a much tougher test, against a much bigger field size. So he could actually provide some value in this race, despite being the beaten favorite in the Kentucky Derby. Could be the value play this time around as we put the shoe on a different foot. Let's talk Arcangelo next. This is one of the new faces to the Triple Crown Series, winner of the Peter Pan Stakes for trainer Jana Antonucci. Javier Castellano, he's already got one in the books for this Triple Crown season, winning the Derby, of course, aboard Mage. He's got the mount back on Arcangelo. He rode this horse to victory in the Peter Pan as well. Let's take a look at that with John Embrial on the call.
And here is Arcangelo, who is just in behind in 4th. Classic Cash runs in 5th. Summer Cause at the rail in 6th, and farther back it's Go Soldier Go and Game Change. Bishop's Bay strikes the lead at the top of the stretch. Asmodeus down at the rail. Arcangelo on the outside, 3/4, 113-1. And here is Arcangelo now to grab the lead from Bishop's Bay. Arcangelo, Bishop's Bay fighting back again on the inside as they move for the 16th pole. It is Bishop's Bay and Arcangelo. A terrific stretch duel here in the Peter Pan. Bishop's Bay has a head in front. Arcangelo counters on the outside. It's a photo finish. May have been Arcangelo, but a photo in the Peter Pan. Arcangelo and Bishop's Bay.
It looked a lot like the Preakness Stakes, and we've had some good stretch drives here throughout the course of the season, that being one of them. It's a whole different ball game, though. That was a 1/3 mile and an 1/8 race in the Peter Pan Stakes, and Bishop's Bay, the horse Arcangelo beat, to me reminds me of a really good sprinter miler type horse. So that was like as far as you might want to stretch Bishop's Bay. Now they got to go from the 1 1/8, Jeff, another 3/8 of a mile, all the way out to the 1.5 miles. Buying or selling Arcangelo?
I'm buying big time on this colt. I recognize what you're saying. He's got that coastal look to me. If you remember coastal, that's how far back I go. But here's a colt by Arrogate and out of a mare by Tapit. All right. The Arrogates get better and better. He did. His foals have. He's out of a mare by Tapit, so you don't have to talk about that. And this is just one factor. It's not the main one, but I wanted to read you the buyer numbers that he's earned in the 4 starts that he has run in. He started out with a 53. Then he goes all the way up to 70, so he moves up 17 points. Then he goes to 84 when he breaks his maiden. He moves up 14 points. And then he wins the Peter Pan with a 97. He moves up 13 points. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a progression. I've seen horses continue to improve, but not by leaps and bounds every race.
Literally, yeah.
And this horse, in addition to the fact that I think he's going to have the right style, which is to say that I think he'll drop in behind the leaders. He's got the pedigree. He's trained unbelievably well, and I don't mean because he's earned fast times, but when I watch him in the morning, and he works in the 102, and it's really a mile and an eighth and 153 or something is what he's been doing. He just keeps going and going like the Energizer Bunny. And apparently, this morning he was supposed to 2-minute lick, and he decided, no, I'm going to breeze. I don't care what you tell. And he went on breeze and looked great. So I mean, here's a horse who's full of himself. He's developing before our eyes. He's fast on figures. His 97 by number was only 1 point less than the Preakness, and he took the Overland Wood. He got fanned out every step of the way, and still came and got a very good horse. You're right about the runner-up. Maybe you don't want to run that far, but Bishop's basically
he's a good horse.
He's a good colt. They were well in front of everybody else, and they came the last 3/8 in that race. So the leaders did, not Arcangelo, but the leaders came the last 3/8 and 36 and 1 or 2. Actually won if you want to go by the hundreds, but the bottom line is it wasn't like he was laboring or losing as much. He was as strong as you could be. I love this horse. I think he's got a chance to win this race, and he's 8-1 in the morning line. I am buying big time on Arcangelo.
Wow. Well, I think you're going to get the price too. I mean, there's only so many options we can bring horses down into single digits in this race, because you've got 3 or 4 that are assuredly going to get bet. So I think you're going to get the price in there. Picks up 8 pounds, carried 118 last time. So that's another challenge up to the 126 here. But, we'll see how Javier Castellano is able to kind of ration this one out over the course of the mile and a half. Very talented horse, a tough test. And if you're going to take that tough test, get a good price on him. And I think this is a horse that at 10-1, I think is a viable bet. I don't know what the final price will be. I don't think it's going to be, 20-1 or anything like that. But I think in the 10-12, somewhere around there. Is that what you're anticipating?
I don't think this is a trainer they're going to bet on. If this was a Plecker or a Baffert or something, then you'd get more play. But, he was 10-1 in the morning line in the Peter Pan, and he got hammered. I know. I think Eddie liked him. Eddie Olczyk liked him that day, and the word was out. I looked at him, and I didn't think he could jump from a maiden race win to the Peter Pan, but he did. Now I'm asking him to go from the Peter Pan to the Belmont. I don't think that's undoable. So I mean, and whatever price he's going to be, I don't know. You're right. There are other horses who are going to get money. They're going to take those lower slots on the tote, so to speak.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that Arcangelo isn't as good, if not better than some of them, especially at a mile and a half. So this to me, and I like where he's drawn. I mean, he's in the 3-hole, and it shouldn't make any difference, but he's not going to get packed out like he did last time out. In the last race, he had the rail, got shuffled back, and then angled to the outside. This time, I don't think he'll have to do that, so they'll spread out. So anyway, it makes, for me anyway, to be a very bettable Belmont based on that.
He seems to be the horse who has upside in the field. We know who the others are, and it's can they get back to their old form? Can they hold their previous form? Can they finally reach their potential? This horse, we don't really know what his ceiling is at all. He's got a lot of forward move left in him, and he's the one not probably to me in this field. He's clearly the one who could run a race bigger than expected on paper compared to the others. I think he's the one who's got that biggest potential for a breakout type performance. Let's talk about our 5th and final buy or sell horse. It's Tapit Trice. And I can tell you, I get the feeling this horse is going to get a lot of looks around the handicapping world, because I think it's that profile. It's a Tapit. It's Todd Pletcher. We've been talking about that long stride and this loper who would be ready for the Belmont Stakes, probably dating back to his win, Jeff, at Tampa Bay Downs in February and March. We were talking about this as a potential Belmont horse. I see a tsunami of support. David Aragona's already agreed to that point numerically by making this horse the 3-1 second choice in the morning line. I mean, you got the Preakness winner in there at a higher price. You've got the Kentucky Derby favorite and 3rd place finisher at a higher price. I think there's going to be a snowball of support for Tapit Trice. What say you?
I think you're probably right, but I also think that it might be false support. I've kind of had it with Tapit Trice, and I was one of the biggest boosters early on, but I wasn't I wasn't blown away with his Tampa Bay Derby win. I certainly was not overly impressed with the Bluegrass, and yet I kept picking him because I was sticking with my original opinion. And he ran in the Derby kind of like why I feared he'd run. And I know that he's working well, but I'm telling you, I've watched every one of this Colts works, and where is he? Come on. Here we are. Every one of his works, and he always looks great in the morning, which is why I always get sucked into him. Yeah. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of getting sucked into this horse.
Just one thing technically, right? We know he wants to be outside horses. He's got that big loping stride. Right. So if you put him in the morning outside of a horse like this is his bet. This is his optimum, right? This is the best he's going to look like this. So this is staged to look as good as it is right here. The race now, you don't get to pick where you want to be on the track. Sometimes circumstances dictate that.
Well, not only that, but he's only going 49 in the 4. It's hard to be a quality horse and not look good if you're going 49 in the 4. So, I mean, to me, it looks visually good, but like I say, I've seen him work ever since the winter because we were covering him quite a bit on XBTV. Right. And I always looked like a long striding colt that was being held up. I remember watching his works at Palm Beach Downs and all this other stuff. And I got to tell you, I'm not. I'm going to sell, and if he beats me, it'll just be consistent with my record with him as being wrong every time he runs. So. But again, 3-1 from the 2 hole. He's not a break. He's not going to get early position. He's going to try to quicken and show a turn of foot somewhere along the way to catch up against horses that are going to be coasting up front and not going to just cave in when he tries to catch them. And it may turn out to be similar to the Derby where he was lagged. He's far back, 45-3, 110, rallied wide in the clear, had dead aim, every chance in the quarter pole of the wire, didn't make up a yard of ground. So I'm going to sell him, and good luck.
I've got a little more positive opinion on him, but not with great confidence at all. This is a very tepid buy. But if he's 3-1, that's not a good buy at all. Right. I mean, there are far more accomplished horses, not just like in reasonable races, but to take the third by Angel of Empire in the Derby over his Derby run any day of the week, right? I mean, and they're back in the same race here. I get the whole Pletcher home game thing. But he's probably going to be too short of a price, I think, in order to get invested in the win pool, at least when you talk about Tapit Trice. Those are our buy or sells for this year's Belmont Stakes. Let's continue on this week's edition of the It's Official podcast. Our second topic is we start to look at the Friday races that are already drawn for the Belmont Stakes weekend, the Belmont Stakes Festival, the Just a Game Stakes. And we've got a filly in here. Her name is in Italian. And my question is she imbattibile, which is unbeatable in Italian? Let's look at her last victory last time out in the Jenny Wiley.
Quarter mile to go. In Italian, the leader. White Frost to the inside with the Moonlight to the outside. Then Queen Goddess skims as fifth toward the rail. In Italian has the lead. In Italian, into the final furlong, opens up here. 3 lengths in front of With the Moonlight. Second ahead. White Frost is third. In Italian, the leader coming to the line in the Grade 1, Jenny Wiley. In Italian to win it. For Irad Ortiz Jr. With the Moonlight was home second. White Frost third, skims fourth. 1 minute, 39.71 seconds.
So she's back in the Just the Game Stakes, Grade 1 mile race, Friday's race number 4 at Belmont Park. Jeff, the worst race on her form in her career. She's 9 for 10 in the exacta. The only time she wasn't last year's Just the Game was she ran third. She does have a win over the turf course at Belmont, so there's no great conspiracy here that she just doesn't like it at Belmont. Her best is awfully darn good.
Yeah, I mean, that race that she got beat in, she went 3/4 and 8 and 4, paid the price late, and she's better now than she was then, I would think. I don't see any reason to believe she's going to have to go that fast here. I mean, if I'm riding Spenderella, I'm certainly going to, be right off her flank and try to be better than she is. But all that might do is cost you second money if you try to win the race. I mean, this is a fantastic mare at age 5. Another situation, I mentioned the Arrogates, but the Dubawis get better with age as well. And it certainly looks like in Italian is doing just that. Her only defeat in her last 4 races, when she was second in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf, and Tuesday wore her down late. But that was a mile and 3/16. That little bit out of her comfort zone. I'm not holding that race against her. So I mean, she's 1-2 in the morning line, but it really is. While you can't bet on her, it's really a treat to watch a mare this good perform. I wouldn't miss it because she's special.
We mentioned she was third in this race last year. The 2, 3, 4 finishers behind Regal Glory back this year in a filly and mare turf division. It's held together quite well. And then you get Spenderella, who was a 3-year-old last year. She's now into this older filly and mare turf division now in the milers, and it's good to see her because she's really talented. She's going to have to do the dirty work. Tyler Gaffleone has a tough decision on his hand because she's the only other horse in this race in a 5-horse field. It's cat and mouse time in a field of 5. You know how this plays on turf. In Italian's going, and Tyler's got to decide what the heck to do with Spenderella sitting second. It is a very tough position to be in to do all of the dirty work. I would say this, bet Spenderella next time, but not this time, because her form's probably going to get sullied up here because she's almost in one of those impossible task positions. If she runs even close to admirably, you really know how good a quality she is, and you'll want to tab her next time in a race that has a little bit better situational setup for her. But Spenderella in Italian, a really nice field. Speak of the devil, others among that field of 5 in Friday's Just a Game Stakes. It's race number 4 on the card at Belmont Park. Let's go to our third topic as we continue to look ahead to the Friday races at Belmont. We talked about some good filly and mare turfers in the mile division in the Just a Game. We're going long in the New York Stakes, race number 8, 1.25 miles on the turf here. And Jeff, this quite simply is the best filly and mare turf race of the year, I believe, on paper. You've got Shanty Sarah in here. You've got Virginia Joy. You got McCulloch. These are the Chad Brown type runners. Brown's got 4 horses in here, and none of them are going to be the top 2 wagering choices, maybe none in the top 3. When's the last time you saw a filly and mare turf race with 4 Chad Browns? And neither of them are going to be the top 2 wagering choices, maybe not the top 3, because you've got Didia in here on a 7-race win streak. You've got Warlike Goddess, who's won, 7 of her last 9 of being an odds-on favorite, and she never misfires. And, of course, with the Moonlight for Charlie Appleby coming back overseas for William Buick and Company off a second to In Italian into Jenny Wiley. So there are the stars lined up in this one. It's the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf June style.
Yeah, it is. And the only concern I have with Warlike Goddess is she doesn't like to be sent or used early. She likes to just kind of fall out of the gate and just kind of lope along. And you can do that going 1 3/8 and 1.5 miles, which at that distance, she's almost unbeatable. But 1.25 miles over the inner turf course at Belmont plays a little differently. Speed, I haven't checked the stats lately, but I was always under the impression that Speed usually did well, given the configuration of the course and all that. And I do think that she's going to have to be at her very best to beat some very good fillies at this distance, given the pace scenario, which, quite frankly, looks pretty soft to me. And you have horses like Didia, who is all she knows is how to win. And she was a Group 1 winner in Argentina for whatever that's worth. She hasn't quite had to beat anybody close to Warlike Goddess in her win streak since arriving here. She's been kind of protected running at Colonial and Fairgrounds and Churchill, but she's got good tactical speed and she knows where the wire is. I fear her, or I respect her for sure. On her best day, Shantazara's got some races that would make her dangerous. I don't know how good market segmentation is. She's gotten some confidence building wins, and with the good tactical speed that she has. So, and with the Moonlight, she's been back and forth a couple of times. I've always felt that she's good, but maybe not among the very best that they sent over. So I don't know whether I fear her as much as normally I would when you have an import from Charles Appleby's barns, Charlie Appleby. I'm going to pick Warlike Goddess because I have too much respect for her, but I do think this might be a tough task, or tougher task than she will have to face the rest of the year, because at 1.25 miles on this course with a lack of pace against fillies that can finish maybe not as good as she can, but pretty strong, she's going to have her work cut out for her. Let's put it that way.
Here's Warlike Goddess last time out in the Bewitched Stakes. Kurt Becker at Keeneland.
Warlike Goddess, Temple City Terror picks it up a notch, and here she comes. Temple City Terror right alongside of Warlike Goddess, and Warlike Goddess now responds to the challenge. Final furlong of the Bewitch. Warlike Goddess has the lead. She's got it by a length. Temple City Terror put her to the test, and she responded well. 3 straight years, the Bewitched Stakes belonging to Warlike Goddess.
It's a different kind of tempo, different kind of race at 1.5 miles on the grass. You saw that 118.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not what we're going to see here on Saturday. And one thing about the turf condition, you talk about maybe speed holding there at Belmont with the configuration. Also the weather. It has been warm and dry in the Northeast for over a week now. I just got back here and my grass is dead. I mean, it's just burnt to the ground right now. We probably should have been watering it while we were away. And I'll tell you what, the Belmont turf course, unless it rains between now and Saturday, is also going to play pretty darn firm. There has not been a lot of rain here in the Northeast in the last couple of weeks, so that could play a factor the way the race shakes out and the way you might want to handicap the New York Stakes, race number 8 on Friday at Belmont Park. Now, Friday is for the fillies. We know that. It's Kentucky Oaks Friday. We also have the Black Eyed Susan on Friday. The Acorn Stakes used to be on the Belmont undercard, and it used to be a mile. Now it's part of the Friday program leading up to the Belmont Stakes Day, and it's 1 mile and a 16th, Jeff. Still a one-turn configuration for the Acorn. It'll be race number 9 on the card. This grade 1 race for $500,000 has stretched out in distance. 1-turn mile to a 1-turn mile and a 16th, and maybe, just maybe, as we take a look at what's considered, I would say, a crossroads race, that this could be the kind of thing that helps the fillies who are turning back in distance versus the sprinters stretching out from a 6 furlong, 7 furlong race to a mile. We've got some Oaks types fillies cutting back from 1 mile and 1/8, including the Kentucky Oaks winner herself, Pretty Mischievous. She'll get an extra 16th of a mile to work with in the Acorn as part of history, but as part of her form cycle, she's going to cut back 1/8 of a mile from the Oaks, a 16th of a mile from the Oaks.
And Pretty Mischievous has taken the lead on the outside. The Alice Look is trying to put in a run as they come into the final furlong, and here comes Gambling Girl, and she's coming with a rush in the center of the track. Pretty Mischievous to catch. Gambling Girl to the outside, coming after her. Gambling Girl and Pretty Mischievous, these two down to the wire. Pretty Mischievous, Gambling Girl. Pretty Mischievous wins the Kentucky Oaks. Gambling Girl was second, then went Paint, followed by the Alice Look and North Leader. The final time was 1:49.77 seconds.
The joyous yells of Tyler Gaffleone after that one mic'd up, and Pretty Mischievous back with Gaffleone riding. We talked about he's got a tough choice on what to do with Spenderella earlier on the card. I think things are a little more cut and dry here in the Acorn Stakes. Pretty Mischievous is going to come with a run because she's got some classy speed horses from the sprint ranks stretching out in front of her. We know the style that's going to be employed here. Can she get there?
I think she can. And one of the reasons why I'm picking her, and I was tempted to try to give Money's Gold an excuse in her last race, and I couldn't. She had an outside post, and she got a relatively soft opening quarter. I didn't think she was traveling all that well. During the early part of the race, and I give her credit for getting beaten ahead and hanging in there. But she really regressed, and I'm not sure she's going to bounce back. Whereas Pretty Mischievous, to me, I thought her win in the Kentucky Oaks was borderline spectacular. If you go back and watch the entire race, she had the 14 hole. Sometimes the 14 hole doesn't hurt you because you just drop in, get a slot, and then it's great. But she never saw the rail. She was wide every step of the way. And she made this huge run into the turn when they were still going pretty quick. The pace was normal, maybe a little faster than normal. And she still hit the front, opened up, found something extra under pressure. I thought it was a spectacular race. But here's the thing, Jeremy. She's buying into mischief. And, well, I mean, could she possibly be just as good, if not better, around one turn? Well, look at the first 2 races of her life. First time out, she wins going 6.5. She comes back and she wins going 7 on a sloppy track, which is fine. And she's been 2-turning ever since. Now, she's got some time off, a little bit of time off, and she's back around one turn, a mile and 1/16. I mean, I think it's made to order for her. I think she's got an excellent chance to come right back, not only and repeat the Kentucky Oaks win, but really put herself in a great position to be head and shoulders above everybody else in the division right now.
Yeah, because Faiza kind of stubbed her toe at Pimlico, right? She didn't step forward in the Black Eyed Susan, so we are looking for somebody to come and get Pretty Mischievous for the 3-year-old title at this point. She's the Kentucky Oaks winner, now tries to cut back in the Acorn Stakes. That's been successful in the past. You saw Abel Tasman do it. You saw Monomoy Girl do it. A good filly who wins the Kentucky Oaks can come back, and that was when this race was at a mile. Now that it's a mile and 16th, I think it helps her. I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt her cause at all. And one thing about this race and the configuration of Belmont Park, Park that people always screw up. The stretch run is not far at Belmont Park. It's
No,
1,097 feet.
Right.
It's a long, big 1.5-mile racetrack, but where the wire placement is to the top of the stretch, it's shorter than Pimlico. It's shorter than Churchill Downs by almost 300 feet shorter than Churchill Downs.
It's shorter than Los Alamitos.
So yeah, exactly. So people always get this wrong. And at 1.16 miles, what it does is they actually start in the chute on the backstretch. So the real long challenge in this race is breaking out of the starting gate at 1.16 and settling, because you've got nothing but racetrack forever in front of you until you hit that long, big sandy hook. And so this is one of those situations where a speed horse like Money's Gold has a much better chance of running off and burning herself out early in this race than worrying about what the stretch run is here. So many people are going to say, oh, it's the long stretch at Belmont. It's like the stupidest thing. People don't even look at the facts. 1,097 feet is 1,097 feet when they turn for home. So for Money's Gold, it's not can she survive the long stretch at Belmont. It's can she settle the first half mile of this race, because they're going to run forever before they make a turn coming out of that backstretch chute and running that long run down the backstretch. So she's got to settle in there. And for Money's Gold, it's going to be up to Irad Ortiz to try to get her to ration her speed that part of the race and then see what you've got when you turn for home. But a very interesting edition of the Acorn Stakes, 3 Chad Browns, 2 Todd Pletchers, and they're probably not going to be the ones to beat. There's 5 from Chad and Todd in here, and the filly they got to beat belongs to Brendan Walsh and Godolphin. It's pretty mischievous, and Jeff and I are both very bullish on her off of that win in the Kentucky Oaks. Let's go to our 5th and final topic this week. We're going to stretch things out a little, shall we? Let's go 2 miles for the Belmont Gold Cup on Friday. It's race number 10 on the card. We don't get a lot of 2-mile races here in the U.S., of course, and last year's race, the 2, 3, 4 finishes are all back rematching in here. But hats off to the racing office in here, because they've got 13 horses to run 2 miles. I didn't think you could find 13 horses in America to fill a 2-mile race. The last 4 years, this race had 8, 9, 8, and 8 when it comes to starters out of the gate. They got 13 entered in this race, Jeff, on Friday. If it holds together, that makes for a great betting race. But you would expect a 2-mile race to just be chaos. I don't like to handicap these races because I think they're kind of hokey. These horses never run 2 miles. But form speaks, and facts don't lie. They've run this race 8 times at 2 miles. 6 of the winners have been 5-2 or less. The other ones were 5-1 and 6-1. The public's figured it out. I mean, I've got no interest in a 2-mile hokey pokey race like this, but the public figures it out. So it's not as crazy, I guess, as 2 miles might seem that it would be.
Well, kudos to the racing office for getting the field filled. Problem is, they got 4 or 5 of them are steeplechase runners who may have thought it was a steeplechase race. I don't know. Maybe they thought it was a hurdle race. But I've actually had pretty good luck in handicapping this race over the years, because
then I'm listening to you.
What's that?
I'm listening to you.
Right. The Euros are so much better than what passes for marathon horses that we have.
Yeah.
Our marathon horses are basically $25,000 claimers disguised as marathoners. Nobody ever runs them. But Siskany is a one of these Dubai horses from that Charlie Appleby has. I actually, by the way, I'm looking at the form. I notice he stands for $338,000 stud fee, which I don't think there's a horse in America that does that. I don't think any of our horses are that. That's how good he is. And just recently, I went back and said, I know he's a great sire. What kind of racehorse was he? So I went back and watched some of his videos on YouTube to see how good he was. And guess what? He was good. He has definitely reproduced himself. And this horse is gelding. A lot of them are geldings for whatever reason. I don't know. But this horse, although he was beaten as the favorite in his most recent start at York, and that was just a couple of 3 weeks ago. But if he shows up with anything close to his best race, I mean, he just lays over this field.
Yeah, it made on in the Nat Al-Sheba Trophy earlier this year. He was on his form in the Godolphin Blue. Let's go back and look at Siskany from back in February.
Siskany got into the open. 2 lengths off the leader and goes well enough. Away he goes in between horses. White Horses towards the outside and Global Heat, but Kamari picked up the lead from a weary Emperor of the Sun. Siskany, though, in the all blue. Al Nayir trying to launch together. Away he goes, could be a player. Arcangelo, but Siskany turns it on at the drop of a hat. And Siskany kicked away by a length and a half. Arcangelo, Kamari, then comes Al Nayir, but Siskany too good. He's not broken a sweat.
Charlie Appleby, we'll see. He's got another one there. And Siskany, Appleby's not the tap-in putt he used to be, Jeff. We used to just circle him. He's 22 for 53, 42% in the U.S. In his career, 64% in the exact. But he's only 1 for 5 this year with 2 runner-ups. So maybe he's lost the fastball. He's lost his fastball.
Yeah. I don't know. I looked at him. I said, he's 8 to 5 in the morning line. So let me see if I can find something that I can beat him with. And I looked through, the usual suspects, the channel makers and those kind of horses, Side of the Sea. And admirable horses to be sure. The only one that I came up with actually at 6 to 1 is Amazing Grace, the German mare. Her form overseas in Germany was very, very good. And she won the Orchid earlier this year at the Gulfstream. She was disappointing, I thought, last time out. And I looked at her form and said, she's good, but, she's going to have the favorite come back to her. For whatever reason. She could maybe run second, but I think it's another situation where we don't have many of these races, the Gold Cup 2-mile races. And I like them because maybe the public is going to catch on one of these days and say, just bet the Euro, or just consider the Euros and find the best one. And if you do that, you're probably going to cash a ticket.
That mare, the German mare, Amazing Grace. I think last year's winner, Loft, also was from Germany. So a German form and the Munson breeding and everything you see there, that's long distance, and that's what they do over there in Germany, and should play well here in the U.S. now under the care of Christoph Clement. So that's going to wrap up our 5 topics this week on It's Official as we look through our buy and sell of the Belmont Stakes. We don't know if it's an unbeatable situation for an Italian, but she's awfully tough on the front end. The New York, we're talking about the Filly and Mare Turf Race of the year. Well, we're like, got us be able to shorten her trip. Speaking of shortening the trip, the Acorn Stakes may favor at 1 mile and 1/16. The filly coming out of the Kentucky Oaks, Pretty Mischievous, gets an extra 16th of a mile, 110 yards to work with. And in the Gold Cup, more foreign flavor expected from Jeff, Charlie Appleby, some German influence as well, going 2 miles. These 5 topics now are official because Jeff Siegel and I said so. For those of you who are watching and following this video in the first Belmont Stakes wager guide, we hope you bet with us this weekend at Belmont Park. We've got a money back special on all the races Saturday at Belmont, all 13 races. You get up to $10 back on your win bets if they happen to finish second or third in any race Belmont Stakes Day when you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. And there are a lot of pick 4 and pick 5 hit and split. You want to check out all the promotions throughout the course of the wager guide, telling you where you want to best spend your money on Saturday. The best place to do it, though, is right here with Express Bet and First Bet. Jeff, I'll give you the final word as we lean into this week's Belmont Stakes.
Well, I just hope the weather's going to be great. We don't do these podcasts without throwing a weather report in. That. But it's supposed to be 75 and sunny, so I think we're going to have a glorious day of racing. And I haven't seen the entries yet for the undercard, but I've been told it's incredible. So we'll have a good day of racing, great day of racing, and hopefully a safe day of racing at Belmont Park.
Yeah, we've got the Met Mile and many other good races, the Manhattan on that undercard coming up. Jeff and I will handicap all those races for Saturday in our Thursday edition this week of the First Call podcast, our weekly handicapping podcast. Typically we do on Fridays. We'll move it up here on a Triple Crown week and do it on Thursday. So be sure to check that out on YouTube, on social media channels. Follow the First Call podcast with Jeff and I on Thursday as we'll handicap all of the Saturday races and the Belmont Stakes undercard. On behalf of everybody with First, appreciate you tuning in, and we'll be back with you on Friday next week. It's Official returns on Tuesday.